Dust swirled across the endless plains as Sheriff Luke Carver rode beside the prison wagon. The sun had long begun to set, painting gold across the desolate land. He'd seen all kinds of criminals hauled through these roads, thieves, con men, killers, but never one like her. The woman beside him sat silent, hands bound, a burlap sack pulled over her head. Her dress was torn and marked with the stains of hard labor. The townsfolk whispered she was cursed. Too ugly for God's mercy. Too strange to be one of them. Luke didn't care much for gossip, but he couldn't help the curiosity stirring in his chest. What kind of woman had to be hidden from the world? The story began 3 days earlier when Luke received the order from the judge himself. Escort the prisoner to Ridge County. Do not remove the sack. She's dangerous, dangerous. Luke had faced outlaws and bounty hunters. But this woman hadn't fought or screamed when captured. She'd simply whispered, "I didn't mean to hurt him." Her voice was soft, trembling, and filled with something Luke couldn't name. Shame, maybe. Or heartbreak. The wagon creaked down the narrow dirt road as wind swept through the grasslands. Luke glanced at her bound wrists, raw from rope. He loosened them a little, out of decency more than mercy. "You got a name?" he asked. No reply. Only a faint sound of her breathing beneath the sack. "They call you ugly, huh?" he muttered, half to himself. World's full of uglier things than a face. For a moment, he thought he saw her shoulders shake, maybe a quiet sob, maybe laughter. Night fell and the two stopped by a dying campfire. Luke poured coffee, handed her a cup. She didn't drink. The stars above burned like 1,000 eyes watching. "I don't reckon you're dangerous," he said finally. "Just unlucky." Silence again. Then, from beneath the sack came a whisper that chilled his blood. "Sheriff, have you ever loved someone who saw you as a monster?" Luke froze. There was pain in her tone, raw, jagged, the kind that no jail cell could contain. He wanted to ask more, but she turned away, refusing another word. The next morning, a storm rolled in and the road turned slick with mud. The wagon hit a deep rut, snapping one of the wheels. Luke cursed under his breath, jumping down to check the damage. The woman stumbled as the wagon tilted. Instinctively, he caught her, feeling the weight of her trembling body in his arms. Through the rough fabric of the sack, he heard her whisper again. Don't look at me. They'll hate you too." Her fear wasn't of him, it was of what the world might think. When the rain cleared, they continued, the air heavy with unspoken tension. Luke couldn't stop wondering. What crime had this woman truly committed? And what had she done to deserve a sack over her face? By the time they neared the county line, he wasn't sure anymore if he was escorting a prisoner or protecting her. The final rays of sunlight cast fire across the hills when Luke made his choice. "To hell with it," he growled, halting the horse. He reached up, his hand trembling slightly as he grasped the edge of the burlap sack. The woman tensed, shaking her head. "Please don't." But Luke pulled it free, and for a moment the world went still. His breath caught. His pulse thundered. She wasn't ugly, she was breathtaking, but not in a way beauty queens were. Her face bore scars, faint, uneven, but her eyes, they held oceans. They were the kind of eyes that had seen too much pain and still carried kindness. Luke felt something break inside him. "Lord," he whispered. "Who told you were ugly?" Her lip trembled. "Everyone." Luke stared at her, realizing the truth. This woman wasn't dangerous. She was broken by cruelty. And as thunder rumbled far, the road back to Ridge County had vanished behind them. Luke had made a choice he could never undo. He'd taken off the sack and seen the woman the world had tried to hide. Her name, she finally told him, was Clara May. Her voice shook when she said it, as if the name itself carried pain. She was a widow, accused of killing her husband, a wealthy land baron known for his temper. The townspeople never asked what really happened. They saw the scars, the sack, the trembling hands, and decided she was guilty. For 3 days they rode through the plains, fugitives of a justice that had lost its way. Clara spoke little, but Luke learned the truth in fragments, how her husband had beaten her near death, how she'd finally fought back one night when he came at her with a whip, how she'd buried him and walked to the sheriff's office to confess. "They said I was a liar," she whispered. "Said a woman like me couldn't be worth a man's life." Luke's jaw clenched. The rage in him was cold and steady. "You were worth 10 of him," he said. "You hear me?" Something changed in Clara after that. Her eyes no longer stayed on the ground. Her voice began to return, soft and certain. When they reached a river crossing, Luke dismounted to fix the wagon, and she surprised him by humming a tune, an old church song. It was the first sound of peace he'd heard in years, but peace in the West was a fragile thing. Word spread fast. By the fourth day, riders came, deputies from Ridge County, armed and eager. "Hand her over, Carver," one shouted. "You're aiding a murderer." Luke stood firm, one hand on his revolver, the other gripping Clara's arm. "You'll have to shoot me first," he said, voice like stone. The standoff was brutal. Gunfire echoed through the canyon. Luke took a bullet in the shoulder but didn't fall. Clara screamed his name, grabbing the rifle from the wagon and firing back, a perfect shot that shattered the deputy's gun. When the smoke cleared, the riders retreated, cursing. Clara dropped the rifle, shaking. Luke staggered to her, smiling through pain. "Guess they were wrong," he said weakly. "You ain't ugly. You're the bravest soul I ever met." Days later, they reached the border town of Silver Creek, a place untouched by Ridge County's reach. Luke sold his horse to buy her a clean dress, pale blue with white lace. She stared at it in disbelief. "Why?" she asked. He looked her square in the eye. "Because you deserve to be seen." That evening, as the sun dipped low, Clara stood by the river, the fabric glowing in the golden light. Luke approached quietly, hat in hand. "You could start over here," he said. "No sacks, no shame. Just you." She turned to him, tears in her eyes. "And you?" she asked. "What will you do?" He smiled. "Guess I'll stay long enough to make sure no one calls you ugly ever again." They laughed softly, and for the first time, Clara let herself believe in tomorrow. The world might never be kind, but this man had seen her heart and found it beautiful. As the camera pans up to the vast sky and the sound of gentle wind fills the air, the narrator's voice fades in. "Sometimes beauty ain't what you see, it's what survives."